So if you guys were fans of that video and fans of the review I did on the original classic John McTiernan Predator film, hopefully this video is something you've been waiting for. 6 films. Predator is a franchise that just has a very rocky relationship with me because I think the first film is one of the greatest action, sci-fi, horror films ever made. I definitely have some enjoyment with some of the sequels, but there has been no film in this franchise that has even come close to matching what that original film did, and it's just such a shame because, you know, like I already said in my The Predator review, I had so much faith that this movie was going to be it, and it didn't even come close. But nonetheless, very interesting franchise to talk about, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Number 6, the worst of the Predator movies as far as I'm concerned, Alien vs. Predator, Requiem. Now, this is a movie that I actually liked when I first saw it, but upon rewatch, and I actually did a review with Durbin from Durbania, you can check that out on my channel. We did the whole Alien franchise on my channel and his channel back and forth. This movie is almost unwatchable in many ways. I mean, it's bad in so many ways, but unwatchable in many ways too, because the story goes nowhere. It never really takes on any kind of seriousness as far as actually taking itself seriously. I mean, it's a serious tone, it's gory as fuck, that's cool, but the movie is so dark, like literally no lighting whatsoever, that it's unwatchable. There is at least 50% of this movie that I cannot tell what the fuck is going on. And it just makes for a movie that has almost no rewatchability. So, for all my in-depth thoughts as well as Durbin's, you can check out our review, but just there's not a whole lot else to say about it. AVP Requiem is a complete shit bomb. I think that movie is just unwatchable. Unfucking watchable. Can we get a light, please? Number 5, for me, is going to be Predator 2. Now, this is a movie that I see a lot of defense for online, and it also tends to lean very heavily on nostalgic reasons about people that grew up in the 90s that really loved Predator 2 when it came out and they still love it. I don't have that nostalgia for this movie. I grew up in the 90s as well. I grew up watching the original Predator, and I watched Predator 2 quite a few times, and it never really resonated much with me. There's entertainment value there. There's definitely some cool Predator action. It's a cool, different setting about putting them in, you know, the concrete jungle instead of the regular jungle. I like the, you know, the gangs and, you know, the voodoo gangs and shit like that that the Predator's taking on, and there's some cool action in the third act involving Danny Glover, but overall, it's just a movie that never quite sticks the landing for me. It never really feels like a movie I want to rewatch. Even when I'm watching it, it's a movie that I never really feel like finishing. I tried to rewatch it, and I was going to review a couple more Predator movies, but just even trying to rewatch Predator 2, I couldn't even get through it without falling asleep. So it's not a movie that I really enjoy very much. I think it's much better than AVP Requiem, because at least I can watch the motherfucker, but it's just not that great to me. And it's one of those movies, too, where it's funny, because a movie that feels so 70s or so 80s has this cool, nostalgic feeling. Like, yeah, that movie's so 80s, it's awesome. This movie feels so 90s, and we're not at a point yet where a movie that feels so 90s is a good thing. It's always a little bit of a negative thing, so I think that's funny. But Predator 2, number 5 for me, not that great of a movie. And those bottom 2 are the ones that I will not recommend at all in this franchise. Everything from here on out at least gets a pass or is a movie that I will recommend that you at least see. Number 4, God, it breaks my heart to say this. So much faith, so much disappointment. The Predator. The more I think about this movie, the more I dislike it. I actually somewhat regret giving it a see it on Netflix. I really think that it might have just... I think it should have gotten a skip it. I really do. If I could go back and redo that video, I probably wouldn't have given it as much of a pass as I did. It's still an entertaining, watchable, bad movie, but there's just so much that is just blatantly incompetent about the way that movie was made, both on Shane Black's shoulders and in the studio's shoulders, that it just baffles me. I don't understand how this movie turned into such a mess. There's entertainment there with the characters. There's entertainment there with the Shane Black style of writing. There's some cool Predator action. It is a movie that kind of goes with a decent pace. It's not like a painful watch. But the third act is dreadful as far as the story direction and where it goes. The big CGI video game looking Super Predator is a joke. It never really feels that intimidating or that cool. And as soon as the original Predator is out of the picture, not to spoil anything, it feels like such a loss to the movie. Like, I've never heard anybody review The Predator that said that when the Super Predator came along, it was such a huge relief and I was ready to get rid of the older Predator. Basically, everybody's like, no, I was invested in that guy. The story makes absolutely no sense if you think about it for more than 2 seconds, which check out our spoiler review that I did with Sean Chandler on Sean Chandler Talks About. We went in depth because both of us had huge expectations for this movie. There's some things he liked better, there's some things I liked better, but we went in depth of all the craziness of this movie, all the reshoots, all the insanity with the story, and the wild timeline that makes no sense whatsoever. Check that out, guys, for our more in-depth thoughts, as well as my The Predator spoiler-free review. But gigantic disappointment, and I have a hard time believing that any other movie in 2018 will top it by the end of the year for my #1 most disappointing movie of 2018. So number 4, God, it sucks, but it's The Predator. Number 3 for me might be a little bit controversial that it's this high on the list, but I still really enjoy this movie, and that is Alien vs. Predator. Now, the biggest negative with this movie, as far as I'm concerned, is that it was rated PG-13. And I think that if it had the gore and the intensity of Alien vs. Predator Requiem, this movie would be a lot better hailed by the fans of this franchise, but I think it's an entertaining movie. I think that it's action-packed. I think it does respect both franchises. It fits the tone, and it fits into the story somewhat of both franchises. It makes sense about how these two beasts come together, about the whole thing about the Predator having this pyramid hunting ground, and they release these eggs as kind of like this game. That stuff is very cool, very creative story. I love the pyramid setting. The characters aren't all that great aside from Sana Lathan and the great Lance Henriksen, which is kind of a weird character that he keeps recurring in the Alien franchise with no like continuity whatsoever, but fuck it, it's Lance Henriksen. I think that the Predator on Alien action is pretty badass in this movie. I love the whole final fight with the Queen Alien. I really do enjoy Alien vs. Predator. I don't rewatch it a lot, but whenever I do, I'm always entertained. I never feel like turning it off. It has always been a movie that I will recommend you see. It should have been rated R. That's the biggest thing, honestly. If it was bloody as hell, I think this movie would actually be higher on this list. But number 3 right now is Alien vs. Predator. So, obviously, you know what my number 1 is going to be. You should have known before you even clicked on the fucking video. But my number 2, which is kind of a surprise for me because I hadn't rewatched this movie since it came out because I had so much disdain for some of the things that it did. But Predators is my number 2. I think that this movie had a very cool concept. It was written by Robert Rodriguez, or at least he had the initial pitch idea for this. And it's a very cool concept. You have this planet that the Predators use as a hunting ground. They drop in all these people that they have abducted from Earth, these different killers from many different backgrounds, and they put them in the jungle setting, which is the most awesome setting to have a Predator movie in. It's the only one that it just feels like it's at home, is the jungle. And it lets them loose, and the Predators hunt them. The Predators don't really show up until halfway through the movie, so it's just kind of this ensemble piece of these sadistic, weird fucking characters trying to figure out what's going on, why they're on this planet, slowly kind of uncovering the puzzle, and then all of a sudden Predators are there, and it's a hunt movie and a battle movie, and I like it. It's enjoyable, it's entertaining, it's close to the first movie as far as entertainment value and attitude and gore that you're going to get in this franchise. I like all the different characters, like the crazy Walton Goggins, like serial rapist, fucking wild-ass character that he is. You got Danny Trejo playing the same character that Danny Trejo plays in most movies, but it's still a cool Danny Trejo. You get a lot of really different characters. There's a Yakuza guy, there's a sniper. The only negative with this movie, but it's a huge fucking negative for me, is Adrian Brody. I'm gonna be honest, I think Adrian Brody in Predators might be the worst case of miscasting that I have ever seen in my life. I've struggled to think of somebody that is more miscast than that fucking guy in this movie. He's not intimidating. He's not tough. The fucking Christian Bale Batman voice that he tries to put on the whole movie to make him sound like I'm tough, because like I don't look tough and I don't act tough, but if I talk like this, I'm fucking tough, bitch. It's ridiculous. The way that they try to recreate the whole Arnold, you know, like alpha male fight with Predator in the third act with Adrian Brody is a joke. I mean, the dude is a stick figure. He's in great shape, but he weighs like 90 pounds soaking wet, and you're trying to get him to recreate shirtless 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger versus monster. No, you're not even fucking close. There's also some aspects with the story where it doesn't feel like some of the ideas are completely fully cooked. Some of the characters feel like they stay too long, and some of them don't stay long enough. But a very cool, very entertaining movie. I'm telling you, if they had recast Adrian Brody and put somebody in there that was just closer to Arnold or just a different type of character altogether, even if Walton Goggins was the damn main character, it'd be more entertaining. he's the biggest thing that holds this movie back for me. It obviously it can't get higher than number 2 because it's not going to beat number 1, but it would have been much closer to my number 1 if not for that one horrible miscasting. But a very entertaining sequel, a lot of potential there. Surprised I didn't get a sequel to that because I'm more interested now in what could come off of that movie than anything off of The Predator that we just got. Just wipe that from memory. But number 1, the champ, you should have known it, is the original Predator. This is one of the greatest action movies, one of the greatest sci-fi movies, one of the greatest movies ever made. Predator is badass. This is the manliest movie ever made. Macho-ness from start to finish. I mean, it starts with the most epic fucking handshake between Apollo Creed and the T-800. It's just awesome. Everything about this movie is awesome. The cast of characters are like the biggest brute meatheads you can find in the 80s, and it totally works. The introduction of the Predator character and the mystery you kind of go along trying to uncover what the hell this thing is that's wiping these gigantic people out in the jungle is just awesome. The one-liners are classic. The gore is great. The dialogue, some of the Shane Black punch-up writing, you can tell it's there. The final third act with Arnold going against the Predator and this alpha male, like, you know, hunter versus the hunted thing is just badass. You could check out my full review and hear me gush about this. There's a couple of negatives with the movie, but they're minor as fuck. This is an absolute classic. I don't see any movie ever topping the original Predator. I thought the Predator could get close, but now that I've seen how much seriousness they actually take this franchise, I don't think we're ever going to get anything close to that original classic John McTiernan movie. So that's my number 1. Should be your number 1 too, but if it's not, tell me in the comment section below so we can kind of have a little bit of a dialogue here. So that's my ranking, guys, of all 6 of the Predator movies. Like I said, put yours down in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed this. Check out those reviews if you have not to get my full thoughts on those. Check out that spoiler review over on Sean Chandler Talks About. We talked for a good hour about the Predator. It's a very cool, entertaining video. And Sean's a very cool, entertaining guy, so hit the subscribe button over there and tell him I sent you over there. Check out all of that stuff, guys. Please like and subscribe if you are not already a subscriber. Share the video. That would be awesome as well. Check out in the video description below for my social media links like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my Spreadshirt store, cool Cody Leach t-shirts, very cool designs. You guys will enjoy them if you're horror fans. There's a lot of little winks and nods to horror franchises down there. And my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help it grow, and also get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron, such as Blu-ray digital copy codes. I give all of those away to my patrons every movie I buy. The digital copy code is theirs. And the ability to choose reviews depending on what tier you pick, like a review or a top 5 video. You choose the topic if you're a patron. That's how it works. It's a cool little exclusive privilege there. And I enjoy doing all these little wild ideas that my patrons bring to me and say, talk about that shit. So check all that out, guys. If you want to check out some more of my videos, including all those reviews I just told you to check out, you can check that out by clicking right over here.